We're having a fun visit, looking at some of my cars and maybe myself, and how did we get here? What is some of our background and our interests? There's something in my blood. I've been doing this kind of thing with my hands all my life. I'm not a sports figure as many people are. This is what I do. This is what I like to do. And I've done it since I was a little boy, started with model airplanes. The one over my right shoulder is happens to be also another 41 Ford, and yet when you look at both of them, neither have anything in common, because in customizing, the common is left out and the individual is injected, if you will. As a designer and a builder, I have these ideas like other designers also do. But I do not do all the work myself. I don't want to make that impression. I shop out an awful lot of work to very, very special people. However, I am hands-on during these productions, these individual productions, from beginning to end. And I use the best people I can find to help me to complete my projects. Once you start creating, you not only create something new, but you create a lot of problems for yourself in engineering. In the design, you will capture what you started out in a particular area, but then it makes problems for you in 2 more areas. So then it multiplies itself, if you will. After the creation part is done in the building, or the chase, as Don put it a moment ago, is over, and then I sort of lose the excitement. What a custom car is that we take I usually, the cars that I work with are from the 30s and the 40s, Don. Nothing past that. And I will take a body style that I have a feel for, and then I will change it. I'll actually redesign it, if you will. Redesigning means changing what the front end looks like, changing what the side of the car looks like, changing what the rear of the car looks like. This is all metal work. Changing the attitude or elevation, if you will, of the top, commonly known as chopping the top. Doing a whole bit artwork in the interior from what it was like in the 30s or the 40s. These cars become truly works of art, and how we take a car it's rather mundane and turn it into a flowing, aesthetically appealing piece of rolling art. Like any piece of art, it's, we all know it's in the eyes of the beholder. But I like to think that when I finish one of mine, finally, and it takes forever, that when you see the lines that I've developed in this piece of metal, and the colors that we've actually cocktailed color. And just to digress a moment, we might, with my painter people, we might mix paints in a small batch, put it in a spray can and paint maybe a coffee can, and the next day take it out in the sun and look at it, and see if that's the hue, if you will, of what we're trying to find. Now we might do this for 6 months. 6 months prior to painting. Cocktailing paint, cocktailing color, cocktailing pearls, trying to find the magic color, which is always up here, you know. And we eventually arrive at that. And therein lies what I call the art part. But also in this artwork is in the interior of the car. The whole interior is changed from original, and it's I call it, it's actually sculptured. It's not just flat material. It starts out with a plywood base over which you will put hard foam, and then you will actually carve the hard foam to make a pattern. But all of this, the total being the sum of the parts, is how we get to do a custom car versus like take for instance, a very popular '57 Chevrolet. Most of the guys that do those cars, they're not custom. They buy a stock part from a stock dealer and replace a stock part with a stock part. Nothing's changed, it's just new. But still the design is as it was in 1957, if it's a '57 car. That's their style. However, I don't think there's anything creative there because it isn't. They're replacing old parts with new parts, which are the same. Whereas in a custom car, we change everything. My style of car customizing, if you will, really comes from those artists that customized cars after World War II and before the Korean War, and that was between 1945 and 1950. In this car customizing, there is this, what I call an element of romance. And those fellows cumulatively captured this in the vehicles they did in those years, like I said, between World War II and Korea. So I sort of go back to those guys, some 60 years later. And because I'm so enamored with their style and design, I try to take that and do my own and actually turn the clock back in style of the, one might call it not Art Deco, but that idea versus Nouveau, which is very pleasing to the eye. So that's where my ideas, although they're my own, they reflect the artists of the past. When I work with other fellows who I need their help from, a talented guy in shaping metal, for instance, I will work with him, but he will do the metal shaping, but I'm there telling him exactly what I want and how I want it, and he will physically do the work, but only from what I'm trying to describe to him what I need. And that's how these things come together in a nutshell. When I have to shop out some of the specialized work, as I mentioned before, I establish with whom I'm going to do it. I pretty much stay with the facility. There's changes that come up that create other problems where we have to go in other directions and then come back to this in shaping the sculpture, if you will. You notice I never mentioned the word money, because when you go for talent, you go for talent first. Second, you go, will he do the job for you? Thirdly, when will he be available? And fourth is, how much does it cost? Never mention money with talent, because you always need the talent first. Case in point was a part of a two-piece windshield I was working on, and the part that holds the windshield is called the stanchion. And in the stanchion was a large concave area that I needed to finish the edge of it with. I needed to somehow finish the edge so you wouldn't see this big hole. And off and on, I just agonized. Boy, more lathe work, more expensive, more machine work, more expense, more specialty. How am I gonna fill this up and still make it look aesthetically proper and look good? And I just couldn't figure it out. But I go off and on, and go back and leave it, go back and leave it. And finally, late at night, it came to me in my sleep. It came to me. I needed something a little convex, had a little arc to it, a little style rather than flat. It had to be a certain diameter. Well, those two things is what I need. He's going to have it machined or some other way. And I was almost ready to go have it machined, which is very, very expensive and a specialty item. And you will never believe what I came up with. Well, here's the answer. Here's the answer right there. Now, if you're not an automotive person, you won't know what this is, but I'm going to explain it. But it's a very common piece. This thing costs 15 cents. And it's a freeze plug that every engine ever made. He's got these things called freeze plugs. And it's never mind how they work, but it's a common item you can buy in any auto parts store. And if you look real close, you can see it is convex. And it's also happened to be the same diameter I needed. So I went to the store and I bought these, 15 cents each. I used an adhesive, stuck it on, project finished. This is truly what I love to do, is be creative with my hobby, which are these cars, which are primarily customs.